During World War II, in 1940, a German plane is tracked and attacked by a British jet in Grottli, Norway. 3 out of 4 officers survive the crash. The officers are Lieutenant Horst Skopis, Wolfgang Strunk, and Joseph. Joseph has a slight injury to his arm. They choose to walk to the coast to meet up with their allies, but they can't go very far because of the snowstorm. After sleeping in a cave made of snow, they continue their journey the next day. They find a cabin in the woods that is far away from everything. They decide to stay in the cabin until the storm is finished. While they were getting comfortable, they hear someone speaking and see 2 British soldiers walking towards the cabin. They inform Skopis that their airplane was attacked close by, and they are looking for a place to stay. Skopis hesitated for a moment, but eventually asked them to come inside. The guy said his name was Captain Davenport, and he introduced his air gunner, Robert Smith. Because they are from different groups that do not get along, they cannot agree on anything and begin arguing about where to sleep. However, the argument ends when Skopis takes out his gun and makes them prisoners of war. He borrows a lighter from Davenport, who says it was a present from his dad, but Skopis promises to give it back before they leave. After telling Davenport and Smith about some rules, he marks a line in the middle of the hut to separate the space into 2 parts, one for Germany and one for Britain. Even though he makes them do what he says, he promises to protect them and share whatever resources they have, even if they are not a lot. Skopis told Strunk and Smith to find more firewood, while he helps Joseph's injured arm. Davenport wants to assist him, but he tells him to go back to his spot in the room and explains that he can't cross the line unless he says it's okay. After making the oatmeal they found in the cabin, Skopis shares it equally among all of them and gives Davenport and Smith their portion. Davenport doesn't want to eat on the floor, so he asks to eat with them at the table. He drags the table over to where he wants it. They begin eating peacefully together, but soon Smith and Joseph start arguing about the food. After eating dinner, Skopis thinks about what's going on and suggests that they should stop arguing and work together to stay alive in the wilderness. Following his suggestion, they put aside their involvement in politics for a while and began having conversations about various subjects. Smith tells them that he had a romantic relationship with the bartender at the base. He also shows them a note from her, where she expressed her hope for his safe return. Then he asks about Strunk, and Skopis tells him that he has a wife and 3 kids waiting for him at home. He was informed that Strunk is doing well running a family business. Strunk has over 2,000 employees working for him. However, Strunk chose to join the military voluntarily because the country needed him. The discussion helps everyone get to know each other better. After helping them wash the dishes, Davenport tells Skopis to use the alcohol in his compass to prevent infection in Joseph's wound. Davenport also assists them in understanding the maps. The next day, Skopis wakes everyone up and says they need to continue their trip to the coast because they don't have enough food and firewood to stay where they are. Davenport wants to split up, but Skopis disagrees and thinks it goes against the rules. This causes another disagreement about which group, the Germans or the British, is better at following rules, but they realize they have to resolve it because they cannot survive without each other's assistance. They start their journey but have to go back to the cabin soon because they can't see each other in the heavy snowstorm. After they ran out of food, they had no choice but to cook and eat the moss in order to survive. At the table, Skopis tries to change the subject and asks Smith if he was actually a winner at the darts game, like he said before. He wants to show them that he can do it, so he starts pressing various buttons on Joseph's coat to demonstrate his abilities. The game also helps them become closer, as they have fun playing a joke on Joseph. While Smith is outside, he sees some reindeer and tries to let others know so they can hunt them. However, he misses the opportunity because the reindeer disappear before Davenport and Skopis come outside. After entering the house, he starts an argument with Joseph by telling him that he used the pages from his book as toilet paper. Joseph points the gun at Smith and threatens to shoot him, even though Skopis told him to stop. Davenport noticed what was happening, so he went over and told him to do what his commander said and put down his gun. Smith sees that they are not paying attention to him, so he grabs a gun from the ground and takes Joseph as a hostage. He then makes Skopis put down his weapon. It makes the situation different, and Davenport makes them move to the other side of the cottage while taking their places. Afterwards, they talk about the effects of war together. Smith asks for Skopis' opinion on Germany invading multiple countries. He says that even though it makes him sad, he must do what his bosses tell him to do. Smith is saying that their country took land from other countries. Skopis agrees and says that the British did the same thing to India and other places they controlled. He also says that the British Army wants to have the Norwegian resources, so they can use the materials in their industries, and Davenport admits that it's true. Things in the cottage become very serious when they don't have any more firewood. They start burning other things made of wood instead. Meanwhile, Smith discovers that Strunk is really passionate about drawing after finding his diary, but decides to give it back to him without saying anything. Davenport told Strunk and Smith to look for the reindeers he saw before. Then, he told Skopis to chop down the main beam of the cottage for firewood. Even though Skopis doesn't agree with him, he still does what he is told. However, the idea turns out to be really bad because the roof starts to collapse. They quickly try to stop it from falling by walking over the tables. This situation allows Scopies to try and take the gun from Davenport. However, it doesn't really matter because Scopies has to go back to the table to stop the roof from breaking above them. As they stand there, Scopies feels weak and tells him that he sees himself as a failure. He was also in a plane crash that killed 3 people and now he is worried about Joseph because his injury is getting worse. In the outdoors, Smith sees and shoots a bunny. They bring it back and have a calm conversation. After returning, Strunk rapidly holds up the roof with a temporary support. Smith realizes that the situation has changed. Davenport is now the one who is captured, while Scopies has control of the gun. Smith and Scopies hold guns towards each other, but they both agree to stop fighting until they can find a way to fix the situation they are in. After putting away their guns in a box outside the cabin, they focus on preparing the rabbit to cook and have a good meal. At this point, they are now closer to each other and assist one another with various tasks, while the line between them has been erased. Later on, they figure out that Joseph's arm has a serious infection called gangrene, so Davenport recommends removing his arm to keep him alive. After not finding any other solution, Scopies tells them to take wood from the walls and floors, boil water, and clean the axe to make it germ-free. While doing what he was told, Strunk accidentally discovers a box under the floor with a lot of dried meat and drinks inside it. They make Joseph drink a lot of alcohol, and then they ask Scopies to cut his arm, but he cannot do it. At that time, Joseph wakes up and becomes scared when he sees everyone standing around him. But then Smith pushes him to the ground again, and Scopies, although not wanting to, cuts off Joseph's arm with the axe. Since they don't know what to do with the arm, Scopies suggests covering it up and burying it. He also suggests having a small ceremony with Joseph there. Smith, who is already very frustrated, doesn't agree and throws it outside when it's nighttime. The group is now friends, so they spend the night playing games. Smith sings a song for them. At the same time, the Norwegian forces make a plan for what to do next and begin moving towards their next goal. Scopies and Strunk are doing their traditional dances in the small house. During Davenport's turn, he finds 4 hidden cigarettes. He gives them to the group and says that he was saving them for when they reach the coast, but now is a good time to use them. Later that night, Smith and Strunk have another serious talk. Smith asks Strunk what job he would like to have if he could choose. Strunk believes he should prioritize his duties to his country, but Smith disagrees and suggests he should do what brings him joy instead. At last, when the weather gets better, the rescue teams see the parts of their planes and begin looking for people who are still alive. Joseph wakes up and is surprised to see that something is wrong with his arm. However, Scopies calms him down and explains that they did something to his arm in order to save his life. They talk about what to do next. Scopies thinks they should go in different directions, but Smith disagrees. He says he will go to the top of the hill to find the best way, and then come back to lead the group. Strunk also agrees to go with him. They get the skis from the cottage and start their trip, while Davenport and Scopies stay with Joseph. They made it to the top and Strunk confesses that he always wanted to be a painter but couldn't pursue it as a profession, believing that it may not provide a high salary. Smith notices that the person is really passionate about painting. He suggests that the person should go to Paris and paint tourists. However, Smith knows that this cannot happen until the war is finished. After a while, they begin skiing down the hill, but Strunk is unexpectedly shot by Norwegian soldiers, who also take Smith into custody. Smith guides them back to the small house, where Scopies is very sad about his soldiers passing. After picking up Strunk's artwork from the cottage, the soldiers detain the remaining people and plan to bring them back to the military base. When Smith and Davenport go back to the camp, their boss asks them why they didn't kill the Germans and instead stayed with them. He also explains to them that this action could be seen as betraying their country, because he thinks they might have worked with the Germans. The conversation is stopped because Scopies comes and gives Davenport his lighter like he said he would. However, Davenport can't bring himself to look at Scopies. After he goes away, Davenport gets angry with his senior and tells him that they didn't betray their countries. They were just trying to stay alive. Afterwards, Scopies and Joseph leave on a boat, while Smith and Davenport watch them go from the dock and exchange a meaningful look with them. It is now known that Scopies and Joseph were brought to prisoner camps in Canada. Smith and Davenport got back into the fight, but they were shot down in their next flight, which resulted in Smith's death. In 1977, someone named Scopies received a phone call at his house in Munich. Davenport asks him to come to London, where they meet as friends even though they used to be enemies.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please turn on the notifications and click the like button to support the channel. See you in the next video.